Today we're going to be looking at that 30-lap Tsukuba race in the driving missions on Gran Turismo 7. I found it to be quite difficult at first, but this is a little bit easier. Basically, you've got to choose any Group B rally car in the game, and you just want to detune it so that it matches the PP requirements. So I'm just using the Focus here, and all I really did was just put the Sport Hard tyres on, and that was enough to bring it under 600 PP. And if you're struggling to match that PP of 600, all you really need to do is go to the transmission and install a fully customizable one and adjust the 6th gear ratio to be very close to the 5th one, like bump it up, and that drops the PP rating quite significantly, and you should be good to go. I don't really have to make any other adjustments here. So, to start off with the race, there's going to be a few different stages. There's going to be a dry stage at the start, which is what we're looking at here. Firstly, you want to make sure that your fuel map is set to all the way to lean. You want to be using as little fuel as possible because the car's fast enough even on that map. And I put the brake bias all the way to the rear to help the car turn under braking, and the torque distribution I leave it pretty much at default because it handles quite well where it is. If you're struggling a little bit in the wet, you might want to take it more towards the front. Anyway, so there's a few different stages. At the start, there's a dry stage which lasts for maybe a couple laps. So as you can see right here, we're making our way through as many cars as we can while the track's nice and dry. So back to the stages. So we have our dry stage at the start here, and then after a couple laps or so, we're going to get into the second stage, which is a dry to wet transition stage. So it's going to begin raining, and the track will still be dry for like half a lap, and then you'll notice the thing will start to become slippery, and the track will become harder to drive on. So at this point, it's going to be one of the slipperiest stages of the race, and the racing line will become extra slippery. So this is when you want to sort of adjust your driving style to basically avoid that dark racing line on the track. You want to try stick off it as much as you can, particularly through the corners, because you'll slip all over the place. So as you can see right here, it's already beginning to rain, and it's only lap 2. I don't think it's exactly the same every time you run this race. It might be a little different, maybe a lap or two different every time, but right now, it's lap 2, it's beginning to rain, and the track is still dry for now, and it's going to be like that way for maybe another half a lap or so. We'll jump forward to when it starts to get a bit slippery. Alright, so we're just a few corners later, and the track's already beginning to look a bit shiny. So right about now, we're starting to lose that grip that we had before, and the racing line that we're on is starting to lose all of its grip. So we have to quickly adjust our racing lines, as you can see, are going to the inside and then to the outside to find the grippier part of the track. And you've got to be extra careful every time you do cross over that racing line. When you're coming across the racing line into the turn and out of the turn, it's going to be slippery in that moment that you cross over the line. So I'm staying on the inside here, I'm braking early, we're going to cross over that racing line, being extra careful. There's a car holding me from getting out to the outside, so I'm just going to have to be extra gentle that I don't spin the car on the racing line here. And as we get towards the outside, we have a bit more grip. And then I try sneaker in the outside here. It was a bit of a dumb move, but I made sure to brake extra early so I didn't go flying into the wall in the first turn. So right now we haven't got so much of an opportunity to use the proper line, the wet line, but as we get past RX-7, now we get to figure things out. So immediately on this turn, we're going straight to the inside where there's a little bit more grip. We're going to cross over that slippery line towards the outside just to grab a little bit of grip, pull it back across the racing line. You see it flicks me out, and then right along the outside just for a little bit there, a bit more grip. In this turn, you can go a little bit wider, you can follow the racing line. Doesn't really matter there, it doesn't slide too much. This turn, it's really reluctant to grip up, and then here there's like a little space of non-oily track, and then back to the inside. Back to the outside. Oh, I went a little bit too deep here. Thankfully, with this car, it doesn't struggle that much on the dirt, so if you do happen to go a bit wide and run out onto the grass, it grips up quite nicely and you should be able to pull it on the track without too many issues. Just make sure on this turn and pretty much every turn you don't brake too late, because then if you keep braking late, you're going to frequently throw yourself off the track. Just be aware of that extra slippy racing line. So this is the second stage where we're transitioning from dry to wet, and the track's becoming more wet, obviously, and that racing line is super slippery. It's probably the slipperiest part of the race. Then we'll go a few laps deeper into the race. So now we're about lap 13, we've jumped forward about 7 laps or so. Now we are in the wettest sort of part of the race. The racing line is still very slippery, but it's a little bit easier to drive with it at this point in the race, just a little bit. And at this point we should be used to driving off of the racing line by now. Just keeping consistent with this strange, unique line that we have to follow to get the most grip as we can out of the car. Now, this car is four-wheel drive, and that makes it a whole lot more stable, especially without traction control. It's quite nice to drive. You don't have too many issues with it flicking around. Whereas if you're using pretty much any rear-wheel drive car, the thing just starts flicking all over the place and you almost have to run traction control because the thing is just too hard to drive without it, and it's just seems a lot slower. And I haven't tried it with any front wheel drives, but the four wheel drive seems to be the one to go, and that's why I like using this Group B car. It just handles beautifully. And if I've just turned on that radar on the bottom right there, as you can see, there's rain everywhere. So for now it's just going to be the same off the racing line, driving that same thing as before. And only about lap 15 or 16, then we're going to move into the final sort of transition from wet to dry again. Now, it happens pretty quickly. If you have your radar open, you should be able to see on the bottom right where it shows all the rain. It'll begin to disappear. As you can see on the radar now, I've just jumped it forward a few laps again. It's lap 17 now. And on the radar you can see there's that wall of clouds just right there on the edge. We're about to leave the rain and it's going to start drying up again. And once it starts drying up, it happens pretty quickly, so you've got to be prepared for it. You will notice that racing line starts to become grippy again. And then as soon as you get that grip on the racing line, then you start using it again. You forget about this wet line. So at this point, it's probably going to be about just after this corner or so, the rain's going to stop. Now, it's not immediate. We'll probably have to wait another lap or so, and then we will have to get back onto that dry line. So I'm just going to fast forward a little bit until we get to that point. And I think we might already be at that point where the racing line is a viable option now. So as you can see, I'm starting to use that racing line just to see if the grip is there, and I'm already finding it. It's better than it was before, so I'm just going to keep using it. And you can already see, look, if you look at the track carefully, that dry line becomes a little bit more obvious to us now. It's a little bit darker, and since the rain has kind of washed away all that oiliness, that slipperiness, and the track's beginning to dry up, we can use the regular racing line again. And from this point on, we can drive like normal. But the next thing to keep note of is the fuel, because you will run out of fuel in this race. If you use the hard tires, the hard sport tires, you shouldn't need to change them in the race. You can leave those tires on. If you use the mediums, I did a race. I've done my best total time with this race with the medium tires, but if you don't change them, they run at 0% right at the end of the race. And I'm not sure if you risk blowing tires. I don't know if that's a feature in Gran Turismo 7, but I got to 0% pretty much a lap before the finish. So that's just a wee warning. But so I would suggest you to use the sport hard tires. They do perfectly fine. They're quick enough. So yeah, the next thing to worry about is your fuel. So I'm not sure exactly when it is. I'll jump forward now. Okay, so as you can see now, bottom right again, that's where my fuel map is, just leaving it on 6 the entire race. It's fast enough with that. Now, there on the bottom of that shows 2 laps remaining. So we're currently on we're about to start lap 20 here. We've got pretty much 2 laps of fuel left. I don't think I use all of them. I think I actually put on this lap. So you just got to remember to, it will warn you when you get to the final turn you've got low fuel for you to pit. So we'll just jump to that real quick. Yeah, so there's your little warning on the screen. It'll tell you to pit, and all you have to do is just throw it into this pit lane. You can go full speed and it'll just jump you into the pit lane. So I just choose don't change for the tires there because you don't need to. And now for refueling, if you don't know, if you look at the refueling bar just under that little icon in the middle, there's a little diamond. That's how much fuel it suggests you need to finish the race. I would suggest wait a little bit longer than that little diamond, just to make sure you do have enough, and then you press stop refueling. So as you can see, coming into the pit stop, letting the fuel come into the car, obviously. We're going to wait for the diamond. So we've reached the diamond, just a little bit more, and then we're done. Back on the track. The track is a little bit drier now, and we should almost be up to full pace again. So that is actually pretty much it. One thing that I haven't shown is I actually did go off the track a few times in this race, and I actually had a spin when I wasn't concentrating at one point, and I went off the line, and I think I spun it in one of the hairpins. So I've lost probably 10 to 15 seconds on this run. It wasn't one of my best runs, but I'm still quite far ahead of the leader. I'm not exactly how far, I'm not sure how far at this point. But yeah, here we go, the track's drying up, we've still got another 9 laps to go, there's no more rain. Yeah, so we've jumped to the final lap now, and as you can see I'm still leading quite comfortably, the track's all nice and dry. I only had just put enough fuel in, as you can see by that warning at the top there, was less than a lap's worth of fuel remaining. So definitely make sure you wait beyond that little diamond mark on the refueling bar when you're in the pits, just so you do have enough fuel. Won the race, and that's 35 minutes 45 seconds. I think my best is like 35 minute flat or something close to that. I did that with the medium tires, but that was also a much cleaner run, and you could go a lot faster if you're just more careful and drive a proper wet racing line when it's wet. Now I'm just gonna quickly show you how far ahead we were of second place. So just looking at the replay now, this was the final lap. Obviously I won the race, so here's me crossing the line, and just a few seconds later we're going to pause it. That car right there in the middle of the screen is the car in second position, but they're a whole lap behind us. So we managed to overlap them within that whole 30 laps of the race. So there you go. The car is brilliant to drive. It's probably going to be one of the more comfortable cars and the quicker cars that you can get away with on this event. So that's my recommendation. I hope this helps if you're struggling with this event, because I was trying all sorts of road cars and other things. I actually tried one of the Group 4 cars, which was a good option as well if you want to try it, but it wasn't as quick as this one. I even tried a detuned Group 3 car, but that wasn't anywhere near as good as this one. I was struggling to drive it, to be honest. So this is my suggestion. Thank you all for watching. I hope this video helped, and if it did, please leave a like. It'll help other people find it. Make sure to check out simrace247.com for the latest sim racing news and updates, and I will catch you guys soon.